You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Fact to kick off this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Lou Gehrig and Sam Thompson are tied for 12th for RBIs in a single season with 166. Of course, Hack Wilson still holds a major league record for RBIs in a single season. I remember back in like the power days of Major League Baseball in the late 90s, there was always like a yearly thing, of course, about like, oh, who's going to break Babe Ruth's record? And then finally, Roger Maris's record, and then Babe Ruth's record later with home runs, and then Hank Aaron's record. But there was always a discussion as well as to whether or not Juan Gonzalez was going to pass Hack Wilson. I'll never forget that always going into a season was like, is this the year Juan Gonzalez breaks Hack Wilson's RBI record? And it's like, that one's a tough one. That's like 210 RBIs or something insane.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm really glad you brought up Juan Gonzalez, because when you said the 90s and RBIs, and I'm like, well, I hope we're talking about Juan Gonzalez.
That's what you think of.
That's exactly what I think of.
Yeah.
It just seemed like there were certain people who had, like, now we don't really consider RBIs as skill, right? It's not.
Right. Exactly.
You kind of put it off to the side, especially when we're talking about prospects and we're trying to evaluate how good they are. RBIs is based on who's around you, who's in front of you, who's getting on base ahead of you, and that's not something you can control, so we don't talk about it too much on this show or in our writing. But Juan Gonzalez just seemed like the guy who controlled that stat in the 90s. And yeah, it's kind of funny to think back now. We don't really think about Juan Gonzalez anymore in terms of Hall of Famer or whatever, but there was a good stretch there where he was one of the best right-handed hitters in the game.
By the way, it was a little bit over. It was 191 RBIs for Hack Wilson back in the 1930 season. He hit 56 home runs, drove in 191, OPS 1177, and somehow did not get an MVP vote, according to Baseball Reference. He finished in the top 8 in MVP voting in 3 of the previous 4 years, in which he put together nothing approaching those numbers, and then somehow hits 56 homers and drives in 191 runs while batting .356, .454, .723, and according to this, did not get an MVP vote? How could that be possible?
I mean, of all the things that we should feel weird about in MVP voting,
Hack Wilson not getting one is
1930.
Probably not it.
Right.
I am very perplexed by that. Maybe there wasn't an MVP vote in 1930, because according to Baseball Reference, it's not showing anything for 1930. So I don't know. It seems like there should have been one. I'm not smart enough to.
There was not, and I don't know why. I don't know why either.
Oh, weird. Yeah, one of the things that comes up when you Google it is from whatifsports.com, and the question is just no MVP in 1930? ? And the topic is about Hack Wilson. Okay, now we know. Hack Wilson got robbed. Award a posthumous MVP to Hack Wilson, please. Baseball Writers Association of America.
That's what we're here for, right?
That's what we're here for. We're advocating for Hack Wilson and his robbed RBI championed MVP crown. By the way, Juan Gonzalez in his career only led the league in RBIs once. That was in 1998. He drove in 157 runs. But from 1996 through 1999, he drove in at least 128 in a season and won 2 MVP awards. Don't remember these things about Juan Gonzalez, and now you know. So that episode 166 of the Show Before the Show gets underway from MILB.com. My name is Tyler Mon. His name is Sam Dykstra. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are no longer together hanging out.
No, we are in very separate places, in case you haven't been able to tell that already.
Long distance. We're a long ways away. But we're excited to get a chance to talk to you about some minor league baseball stuff this week, including some good stuff coming up with Benjamin Hill later on. We will also be joined by Andrew Graham, who is the manager of the AA Erie Seawolves and the Detroit Tigers organization, and a guy who's got experience coaching all around the globe and has got a really, really talented roster in AA in the Tiger system in the 2018 season. We will talk with Andy coming up here in just a little bit. We will also discuss some of the biggest topics from the month of June. But before we get to that, thanks for tuning into the show before the show, wherever you found us at milb.com/podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Play, and everywhere else. And give us a rating and a review and a subscription if your service lets you, and if you're going to give us a good one. And with that, we'll dive into three strikes. The month of June almost behind us, not quite. We're recording this on Wednesday the 27th, but there have been a lot of really good, performances during the month of June that weren't Vlad Guerrero. And Vlad Guerrero Jr., who is out right now with an injury, was really the only topic that we had for players of the month for April and May, it felt like. So Sam, who are you watching closely in June who is coming to the end of a really good month?
Yeah, and this one was really exciting because it felt like he was going to have one of these months eventually, especially coming off the spring, in which, he was one of the topics we talked about a lot in the spring, as Kyle Tucker in the Astros system, top prospect in that Astros system. Even beating out Forrest Whitley now, which is interesting. We can save that for another day. Who is the better prospect, Forrest Whitley or Kyle Tucker? But Kyle Tucker, coming off his June, right now through 22 games, is hitting .411 with a .450 on base percentage and a .678 slugging percentage. That slugging percentage in particular is almost 200 points higher than any other month before this in either April or May, since he had made the jump to AAA Fresno. Like I said, Tucker had a very strong spring, got invited to Major League camp. They nicknamed him Ted, which was after Ted Williams, because his swing from the left side is so sweet. It is so fun to look at. He hit 5 homers in 20 games over the spring, hitting .409 with a 1.256 OPS. Spring training stats, usually they're kind of junk. We throw them off to the side. But, for a guy coming into a camp, and especially a camp that is coming off a World Series, everybody in there is feeling high and mighty, feeling really good about themselves. We know it's a talented camp. For him to be one of the stories of the spring for Houston was really special. Held his own at AAA. He's one of the youngest players there. He turned 21 in January, basically the same age as a college junior. And, hit .293 through April, had an 800 OPS in both April and May. Certainly solid numbers. Not exactly something that's going to scream he's ready for the majors, though, is in the PCL, which we know has, hitters parks all up and down the West Coast. So to see him take off in this way is really special. He's starting to show, again, that power and speed combo that we've always really liked out of Kyle Tucker. He's hit 5 home runs in 22 games in June, also stolen 7 bases. He has not been caught stealing since April, which is really cool. Right now he sits at 12 homers and 13 steals on the season, well on his way to another 2020 season that he had last year. He had 25 homers between Class A Advanced Bowie's Creek and AA Corpus Christi and stole 21 bases. This is another jump for him. Kind of looking at the Houston situation right now, we all expect them to pretty comfortably win the AL West, as good as the Seattle Mariners are, and as much as the Los Angeles Angels have to decide whether they're going to push for a wild card spot or not. Everybody expects the Astros to be there at the top of the AL West standings at the end of the year, so they don't necessarily need to rush him. But looking at their outfield situation right now, they're getting some decent at-bats from Marwin Gonzalez and Tony Kemp. But Tucker could, if he keeps up this hot streak, he might be their best option and really round out that outfield next to George Springer and Josh Reddick. This could be a case of the Astros, a rich team in talent getting even richer. We talked a lot about at least on the major league side, not on this podcast, about the pitching that they have. But if they can add another talent in Kyle Tucker, especially as hot as he's been this June, look out for, a potential repeat come September.
There are a lot of pitching stars in the month of June, and really June is kind of when we start seeing hitters come alive. I feel like April and May, you sort of see the pitching take on the early surges, and then hitters start to get things figured out in May and into June especially. But there were a lot of really, really good pitching performances. Among ranked guys, Jesus Luzardo, I want to give a shout out to him. A 2-1 record, a 0.45 ERA through 4 starts, 20 innings. He allowed 1 earned run. Opponents batted 155 against him. But a guy who was even better, David Parkinson in the Philadelphia Phillies organization with Class A Lakewood, 2-0 through 4 starts, a 0.38 ERA, 35 strikeouts in 24 innings against 5 walks. Opponents batted 153 against him. He had a whip of 0.75. David Parkinson has just been really steady and really good. His worst start of the season came back on May 6th. He gave up 4 runs on 8 hits over 4 2/3. Other than that, pretty much everything has been scoreless or 1 earned run, it seems like. He did have a weird start against Hagerstown back in April, in which he gave up 8 runs, 1 of them earned. But other than that, every single start of his 12 starts, only 2 of them have had 2 or more earned runs, which is crazy. His numbers across the board have been really, really good so far this season for Lakewood. But it's pretty impressive. I mean, I think there are about 15 pitchers, starting pitchers with ERAs under 1 in the month of June, and that's not, totally out of the realm of ordinary for a full month, but it's a really impressive slate of guys all across the minor leagues and at every level across full season ball especially, which is pretty much what we looked at for this month since the short season guys have only been playing for the last 2 weeks or so. But David Parkinson of the Lakewood Blue Claws gets my nod for pitcher of the month for the month of June, and not a whole lot of people who you could struggle picking from, because anybody in this crowd of position players or pitchers for June, there are a lot of really, really impressive months. And a guy who is looking for a lot of impressive months ahead is the Detroit Tigers first-round pick, Casey Mize, who went to the Tigers with the selection out of Auburn and becomes a first overall pick, goes from the Auburn Tigers to the Detroit Tigers, and a guy who is now signed and in the organization, but also a guy who is coming with a significant workload already this season. 114 and 2/3 innings pitched for the Auburn Tigers in 17 starts this season, just 21 years old. Sam, how do you handle somebody like Casey Mize? This is a Tigers organization that obviously has a lot of experience getting these college guys in recent seasons, even getting high school pitchers in recent seasons, and getting them acclimated to pro ball, but not necessarily just throwing them right into the mix. How do you handle Casey Mize right out of the gate?
Yeah, and the reason why we're talking about this, we should say, is that Mize signed this week. He's officially a Detroit Tiger. He got introduced at Comerica Park and all that fun stuff. Signed for $7.5 million, which is tied for the second highest bonus ever given to a draft pick. Garrett Cole signed for $8 million when he signed out of UCLA in 2011. Those were times before, the draft salary cap was really a thing, or the bonus cap was a thing, I suppose I should say. Mize, for the Tigers to invest that much money, to take him with the first overall selection, they could have gone any direction. To say, you are our guy, this is what we want to give you, is certainly a promising sign. In his introductory press conference, Detroit scouting director Scott Please said, we're going to put down a plan together. We pretty much know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure out how many innings, when he's going to do it. All that stuff's going to be mapped out. So they're not giving out specifics yet. Mize is going back to the spring training facility in Lakeland, Florida right now, just to kind of get used to what it's like to be in pro ball, get used to the Tiger system, how they do things, how they work out, all of that. The reason why this is kind of an interesting question is because the Tigers used their 2017 first round pick on Alex Fado, who we had on the show last summer, who ended up not pitching at all in that first pro summer. He was coming off a season at the University of Florida in which he had thrown 123 and 2/3 innings. Tigers said, we want you to, just kind of focus on getting ready and not wearing out your arm. You've done plenty at the NCAA level. We don't want to tax your arm anymore, especially after we took you with a first round pick. Mize, not quite there. He threw 114 and 2/3 innings, so only 9 fewer than Fado. And the fact that, like I said, their scouting director said, we're going to lay out a plan, how many innings, kind of shows you that they're not going to go the Fado route with Mize. They do have a history, the Tigers do, of sending first round picks out of college to the lower levels, not necessarily GCL, but Jonathan Crawford, who was a first round pick back in 2013, he made 8 starts with Class A short season Connecticut that same summer. And in that same draft, Corey Nebel, who was their 39th overall pick coming out of the University of Texas, he actually pitched some games at Class A West Michigan. He was not a starter, though. He is a reliever, so that was kind of a different scenario there. But it is a case-by-case basis with the Tigers. I would love to see him get a couple starts at Michigan. Or at West Michigan, excuse me. I think he's talented enough. Everybody thinks he could be in the majors by next year, which is not something we often say with draft picks, regardless of high school, college, whatever. But Mize certainly has the stuff. His splitter could be one of the best pitches in the minors whenever he does debut. His fastball is really good. So he has all the tools to kind of move quickly. It's just how cautious do the Tigers want to be. Let him get his innings. You want to limit him to 2 or 3 innings to start. I get that. But he could certainly handle Class A right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts out next year at AA Erie, just to see just because based on his track record, based on the quality of his pitches, he could handle that pretty much right away.
It's going to be, out of all the organizations right now who I think you would trust the most with this experience, the Tigers would certainly be at or near the top of that list. The fact that they've had a chance to do this before, like you said, with Faedo, with Kyle Funkhauser, even who came out of Louisville, with all these guys who have such high ceilings potentially, and also, you have to be careful with some of these pitchers. Matt Manning being a guy that the Tigers are very high on, and somebody who really factors into future plans a lot. He's still a Class A and was the 9th overall selection in 2016. Bo Burrows, who was a high school selection, was a first-round pick in 2015. He just made the climb this year to Double-A. So everybody's got that individual track and that individual pathway of what's going to get him to the major leagues. But like you said, Sam, the fact that Casey Mize is somebody who could theoretically rise so quickly is what makes this such an intriguing case, because if you get him in right now and you throw him into the mix and you see what he has in the professional level, maybe that accelerates the timetable going into 2019. But also, if you throw a guy in there, and this is what's so weird about these situations with the draft is, Casey Mize right now, there's still, 2 full months of the minor league season ahead. There's the potential that he could get some work in there, but he also threw 114 2/3 innings for a team that has not played ball in a month. So Casey Mize hasn't been pitching in game situations, and obviously he's going to be working out and throwing on the side and doing all that stuff. But when you're a high school or college player and you started your season really getting ready for your season in January in earnest, then started the season in February, then you ramp up, you've got your full workload, and all of a sudden you've got to shut things down. And in May and in June, if you're a team that doesn't make it deep into the NCAA's postseason in this case, that puts you in a weird spot, because pitching in game situations is so much different. It's almost like you've physically entered an offseason already, and then to ramp back up and pitch competitively again can be a tall task for some guys. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Casey Mize, but it's something that the Tigers and every organization has to keep in mind going forward. So, I think it'd be really cool if we did see him at that level, tested, even if it's a circumstance where they throw him at the Class A advanced level so he can be at the facility in Lakeland and be around Tigers staff that's, of the highest levels of the organization, not just being at a full season affiliate if he's a West Michigan, although he's closer to the parent club there. But I think to see him tested there would be really cool. And if there is an organization that knows how to kind of handle these tracks for these guys who are high ceiling, high reward types of college pitchers, the Detroit Tigers are certainly one of them. But either way, if you're a Tigers fan right now, yes, you have a million right-handed pitching prospects, but you have a million really good pitching prospects. That is a really, really exciting organization. At this stage, there are so many potential future rotation members there. There are also a lot of potential future transaction members there, and I think the Tigers, being an organization that is certainly no stranger to that, this has the feel to me of maybe the Kansas City Royals 2014-2015. I mean, an organization that could really break out and be back at the top of that division in pretty short order, even because of the fact that with that depth in the system, you could make some moves and put yourselves back in a contention type of spot through a couple of trades if that's the route the Tigers choose to go. There's obviously some more deficiencies than just in the rotation there, but that's a promising future in Detroit right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what makes it so exciting about Mize, is that you mentioned Matt Manning and even Faedo to some extent. Those guys are a little bit more of a project. There's obvious things that they need to work on. With Mize, I don't think there is the obvious flaw that needs fixing. It's his control is very, very good. He has a 3-pitch mix that's really special. Sometimes a 4-pitch mix, depending on who you talk to, and it's all it is just showing it at the pro level, measuring himself up against some of these higher level bats, and he's the guy that I think most likely to be an ace in that system. And you want to see those guys move as quickly as you can and test them out against major league pitching or major league hitting, excuse me. But yeah, given all that they had in terms of arms coming in to add Mize to the mix, somebody who looks, like I said, kind of more of a surefire ace than anybody else they have, is certainly exciting and kind of gives a boost to their rebuild.
Strike 3 this week, Sam. It is World Cup time. I don't know if anybody heard. There's an event going on currently in Russia in which the soccer-playing nations of the world, the best ones, compete for a title. It's this thing called the World Cup. And Sam and I spent some time last week watching the World Cup. We had a lengthy conversation at an area spirits establishment about soccer. Sam being a much more educated fan than most people that I know. And we decided to cross over the two areas of Sam's expertise for Strike 3 this week. And that is, of prospects currently in minor league baseball, Sam, who would make the best soccer player and why?
Yeah, so this is just a fun topic. I saw Cut 4 did like an entire 11-player setup of who they would like to see play soccer, and of major leaguers, obviously. We won't go quite that far, but I'm actually going to go with 2, and this is going to make sense here in a second. I would love to see a center back pairing. Tyler, do you know what a center back is?
Sure. It's a
Can you use
midfielder.
it? It's a back. It's a center. You can't just say like it's a thing. What's a goalie?
Position. It's a position
forward.
on the field.
Right. So a center back
toward the back of the center.
Right. Center backs are defenders. They're the two guys in the center.
Totally. That's
Right.
what I meant. That's what I was saying, Sam.
Right. And in terms of top prospects, I would love to see no center back pairing more than Jordan Alvarez and Eloy Jimenez. Just because you got Jordan Alvarez is 6'5", Eloy Jimenez is 6'4". Put those two guys in the middle of the park, and opposing forwards are just going to be so worried about what are they going to be able to get around them. There's going to be like no room for headers, all that kind of thing. You don't normally see center backs that tall. They're usually some of the bigger guys out there, but 6'5", 6'4", that's kind of the upper limits of center backs. But those are two strong guys. They're all both noted for their strength. Alvarez hasn't quite shown it yet in terms of home runs, even though it's improving this year because he puts the ball on the ground a lot. That's not going to be a worry here in soccer. So I think I like to grow out from the back, make sure you have a steady back line. Putting those two guys out there, they're going to beat you to a lot of balls. They're going to, clear out everything. Doesn't matter who's playing behind them. It's going to be so difficult for, even the shiftiest of forwards to get past Jordan Alvarez and Eloy Jimenez. So as much as I want to say like so-and-so is going to be the next Messi up front, I think, my soccer strategy, like I said, build from the back. You can't do much better than building from those two guys.
Totally. I would totally agree. That's what I would have said. If you didn't say it, I would have said it. That's
of course.
Yes.
I'm
gonna go. I'm going with the most elementary type of pick, and I'm going with second-ranked Seattle Mariners prospect Evan White, who was the 17th overall pick last year, and a first baseman who has 70 graded field tool over at first base because everybody raves about his footwork. So there, Sam.
So what position would you put him in? You can't just say like.
He'd probably be a striker.
You'd probably be a
How's that?
striker. Okay.
How's that?
I'll give you that because
He does have a 60 run tool. He's fast.
No, he is fast, and a lot of people do think that someday he could be kind of like Cody Bellinger in transition to the outfield, and he can do kind of both. I will give you striker just because he's 6'3", 205 pounds.
Yes.
We are kind of living in an age now where the big striker is kind of coming back. We see that with Romelu Lukaku for Belgium and Harry Kane for England and a couple other guys across the World Cup.
He's one of your own.
He is one of my own. He is one of my dear own as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. But yeah, I'll give you that. I would love to see what Evan White could do up top.
I passed with flying colors. One foul ball this week, Sam. We have farm system grades for the first half of the season coming up shortly. Give us a little preview of this.
Yeah, so for those of you who remember from the spring, we did farm system rankings, ranked all the individual farm systems on hitting, on pitching, on under 21 talent, on a whole host of things, came out with our overall rankings. This is kind of a checkup on that. We're not going to do a whole re-rank of every system, but we are going to check in on each one and we're going to grade them. So if you really wanted to, you could probably sit down and figure out, who we think is the best system right now, but it's more based on how things have gone in the first half. So the best system might not get an A, but if it's a really strong system that hasn't performed necessarily up to expectations, they might still get a B or a B minus. Same thing, like there's one system that I can think of, like the Los Angeles Angels, could not have had a better first half. Are we saying it's the best system in baseball right now? No, probably not. But you can pretty much bet that they're going to be in that A range, given the way they've graduated prospects and moved guys up very quickly and had basically all their top prospects pass certain tests in this first half. So that'll be coming out next week. early next week. We're going to divide it up between the American League farm systems and the National League farm systems. So if your team isn't out when we first announced, don't worry, just wait a day. It'll be out there. This will be a collaborative effort, 6 of our writers on staff, each one taking a division. So look for that next week.
That is coming up at MILB.com next week, and you can check it out and then tweet your thoughts at us if they are nice, especially. And with that, we will wrap up 3 strikes and 1 foul ball for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Coming up, we're going to head to the AA Eastern League and the manager of the Erie Seawolves, Andrew Graham, who joins us to talk about his talented roster, what it's been like handling so many talented young pitchers, and some of the really intriguing position players on that roster as well. Andy Graham joins us from the Erie Seawolves next. Reading, Pennsylvania is where we find the manager of the AA Erie Seawolves and the Detroit Tigers organization, Andrew Graham, who joins the show and getting set for really almost the wrap-up to the Eastern League's first half. I guess the first half officially is kind of behind you, but the All-Star break is coming up. Andy, welcome. How are you?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
We're great. Thanks for joining us. So this is a prospect-packed roster that you guys have at AA Erie this year. Bo Burrows has been on that roster 14 starts this season and has really started to surge as of late. He's racking up a lot of strikeouts. Kyle Funkhauser has been really good, an ERA of 3.62. Alex Faido, you just get up. He makes his first start for you. Spencer Turnbull on the roster for 13 starts. This is a prospect-laden squad in terms of pitching. And then you look on the offensive side, and you got Daz Cameron over there, and you got some of these guys throughout the system that you think, like, well, eventually they're going to be crushing at the Major League level too. And I think for Tigers fans, this is not necessarily a long time coming, but this is something that everybody is really excited about, that these guys are nearing this level of the minor leagues. Tell us about what it's been like this year, getting a chance to be around this group.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, we always knew we were going to have a good starting rotation. You know, Detroit Tigers, we're in a rebuild, as everyone knows. So we have a lot of the top prospects here in AA who hopefully can help our team down the road next year or in the years to come. But, you know, we've always drafted heavily in pitching, so that's why we have these prospects, so many at the same level. You know, we've got a couple of prospects offensively who can help us drive in some runs, but our team's all about pitching and defense right now. And, you know, you threw out some names there who have been having a great season. Some of them have been doing better as of late. They started off slow, and that's why their numbers are a little inflated, but they're on the right track to help the Detroit Tigers in the future.
Grazer, when you look at the way you manage these guys, we were talking in our last segment about Casey Mize gets signed, a guy who's already thrown a ton of innings, and what's the pathway forward for somebody like that. So many guys on your roster, the Tigers have experience with that. Alex Faido coming out last year, the 18th overall pick, and what do you do with him coming out of a college workload? Bo Burrows, a high school guy. What do you do with him getting him into pro ball? Kyle Funkhauser, same way as Faido as far as the college workload. To manage those guys, and now obviously that's not the case doing it in their first pro seasons with working with them this year, but to have that experience already, what's that been like, knowing, you know, how talented what these guys can be, but also managing how much they're getting work at this level?
Yeah, I mean, we all know they're talented. We're just going to make sure that these guys don't hit their innings threshold. As you know, like, you know, this is my 8th year of managing. At the lower levels, you get your starting pitching, and they've got like 100, 110 innings on the season. So it's tough. You know, you preach to these pitchers, we want you to be efficient, we want you to be effective, attack the zone to get deep into games, and then you get to the All-Star break, and it's basically they've got 5 innings to start. That being said, at this level, they've got a little more stretched out. We do have 2 or 3 of these guys who we have to limit and just watch their innings, but other than that, we can give them the ball and let them go. But you know, like Alex Faido, he'll be he's back in our rotation. He'll be making a start for us on Saturday. You know, he's a guy who obviously pitched out of college last year. We shut him down after the year because he had so many innings for University of Florida. So he'll be on somewhat of restrictions, 5 to 6 innings each start, no more than that. But that's plenty of innings for him to get his feet wet in his first full season and to see how well he develops.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Faido because I was going to ask about why he was skipped over, but I guess you answered it in that question. So let's go back to that AA debut he made with you guys last week. 6 strong innings out of him. I think he only gave up 2 runs, struck out 7. What stood out to you most about seeing a guy pitching at that level for the first time?
What stuck out most to me is I've seen a lot of guys come up to the AA level, especially when they pitch in the Erie ballpark, which is a smaller ballpark. It can get a little intimidating for pitchers. in the first inning, he gave up a run, but that didn't faze him at all. When he gave up his second run, which was a solo home run to left field, a lot of these guys then go. I've seen trends where they pitch away from contact. Well, Alex went straight after the next hitter with I think two fastballs straight inside. So it showed me that he pitches with some authority. He wasn't afraid. It didn't faze him, and it didn't affect his outcome in the game, which was good for considering he's a young kid making his first start in Double-A. So that was the main thing that stuck out for me. But the other things was he's got good pitchability. He's got good deception. He mixes in his pitches well, and he did a good job. I mean, everyone's talking about his velocity, but he had a big break last year, and I think with time it will come back. I don't think he's going to be up in the 97s like he was in the College World Series or anything like that, but I think he's going to pitch at a little higher average.
And let's turn to another guy in that rotation who's been with you guys all year long, in Beau Burrows. Somebody Tyler mentioned. He's coming off his last start. He struck out 11 batters in 6 innings. That's a season high. Yeah. He seems very consistent of late. The last time he didn't give up either 3 or 2 runs was all the way back in May. What have you seen in terms of growth out of him this year, and what do you feel like he needs to do to kind of lock in some of the, not necessarily 11 strikeouts in 6 innings, but continue to get whiffs like he did last time?
Well, Burrows is a guy that I've had since his first season, so it's been interesting for me to move up with him. I had him in West Michigan, I had him in Lake Higher, and then I've had him in Double-A. So it's I've been there from the beginning, and Beau is improving every day. He's a hardworking kid. He's getting mentally more mature. He's getting stronger, and he had success this season. Obviously, there's been a couple of innings. Normally, it's like 1 inning every game where he kind of loses his command of his pitches, and that's when he gets hurt. That's where they give up the multiple runs. But as of late, the last game, 11 strikeouts, his fastball was electric. We all know he's got an electric fastball. Down in higher, he'd pitch off his fastball. He can command it high in the zone and command it low in the zone when he wanted to. But it's got that extra gear, so you get a lot of late swings and a lot of swing and misses on the elevated fastball. That being said, Beau this year has been really working hard to develop more consistent release of his off-speed, more consistent command of his slider and his curveball, because that's what he's going to need to pitch in the big leagues. So he's working hard every day to do that. The last game, 11 punch-outs, he had his fastball going. Yes, he struck out a lot of guys on his fastball, but he was mixing his off-speed pitches in there more, which made his fastball more effective.
Andy, the rest of this roster, you've had, pitchers throughout the MLB pipeline top 30 have been on your roster this season. Tyler Alexander was with you earlier this year. Sandy Baez has been there. Matt Hall has been there. One guy who I think Tigers fans maybe haven't forgotten about, but might have slipped a little bit off the radar, and I know right now he's on the DL, but Spencer Turnbull's made 13 starts there and has put up some pretty good numbers. And in 68 innings, has struck out 79. He dealt with some shoulder stuff, was on the DL part of last season, but started this year pretty healthy. Had a really good stretch, I know, from early May through the end of that month, and then came back in June, had a 9-inning complete game, struck out 11, didn't walk anybody back on June 10th. Right now, when he came out of Alabama, it looked like he could rise pretty quickly, got thrown off a little bit by injuries, but what have you been seeing out of him so far this season?
You stand at his side, you stand and watch Spencer's sides, you watch him in the game, and this is someone who creates more swing and misses than any other pitcher in our organization. Over the board, he's got probably the best stuff on the Double-A roster right now, as when we talk about stuff. Slider, curveball, fastball cuts and sinks, got a good changeup. All of them are swing and miss pitches. The problem with Spencer is his consistency in his command of the strike zone. He can get too many deep counts, and when he gets behind the counts, that's when he gets hurt. Too many walks at times. But the last 3 starts he made before he went on the DL with a little bit of shoulder discomfort, he was commanding everything. And that game that he threw a complete game shutout, he was commanding every pitch. It was the best I've seen. I've had him for 3 years as well. This guy, as I said, when he's on, he's got good stuff and he can get anyone out. And I believe if he's on, he could pitch in the big leagues no problems and have success. It just depends on his mental side of attacking the strike zone rather than nibbling, because at times he nibbles, and I don't think he's trying to nibble. He just wants his stuff to move so much that it's moving in and out of the zone too quickly rather than having a pitch he can command all the time. So he's just got to work on his consistency of pounding the strike zone, because all his stuff plays.
And let's kind of transition from talking about the pitchers to talking to one guy who's worked a lot with his staff. Is Jake Rogers. Came over last year from the trade with Houston for Justin Verlander. So this is the first full season anybody in the Tigers system is getting to work with him, and you included. Seems to really be turning things around offensively this month. He's hit 5 homers in 17 games in June. But everybody loves to talk about his defense. What stood out to you most offensively and defensively in getting work to him, especially being a former catcher yourself?
I mean, watching Jake catch and receive, he's one of the best catch and throw guys I've ever seen. And I love watching catches and the art of catching and guys who can throw and receive. It's such a great art. You get so many pitches for borderline pitches for the pitches, but Jake's receiving and throwing is special. He can be a little late blocking at times and a little lazy blocking, something we're working on, and he is getting better and moving in the right direction. But I think he's throwing out 58 or 60% of runners this year. It's probably like second in all of baseball right now, I do believe. And that being said, there has been 3 times we have dropped the ball at second base when the guy was out after the tag, and twice where I've reviewed it and the call was made. The wrong call was made. So there's an extra 5 stolen base caught stealings there, which would put him up to about 63%, 64%, which would be outstanding. But he's accurate. He's got a great arm. I'm getting him anywhere between his best time of the season. I've had a couple of 171s, 175s, but he normally sits at about a 185 to 195, accurate on the money. So outstanding arm, catch and throw guy. Offensively, yeah, he's getting a little tightening that up a little bit. Obviously, got off to a really slow start. He's very big into the launch angle, and he came from Houston Astros, who are very into the analytical launch angle and stuff. But unfortunately, at a higher level now, where the guys are throwing a little harder and can find the holes, they're pitching him up in the zone and soft away, and he's having trouble hitting those pitches. So we're working hard on him getting a little more of a level playing swing. We still want him to hit for power, obviously, but he's got to cut down his swing at times to put the ball in play more. And it's working. I mean, he still has games where he swings a little bit out of control and he's leaking open and striking out, but then he'll lock in and have a couple of days where he's hitting some hard line drives the other way with the odd home run here and there.
And one other guy involved in that trade who just joined you, last week, played 8 games for you, is Daz Cameron. Off to a really strong start for him. He's 13 for 33. That's a 394 average. Already hit 2 homers in his 8 games. A lot of people like to talk about his defense in center field. I know that helped get him an all-star spot in the FSL. But kind of two versions of this question. First off, over this first week, what stood out to you? And also, when you are getting guys from the Florida State League, which is a pitcher's league, and moving them into Erie, like you said, which is a smaller park and a little bit more offensively friendly, what kind of conversation do you have about making that transition specifically from a pitcher's environment to a hitter's one?
Yeah, I mean, most people hitters, when they get up here, they get a little excited because these parks play a lot smaller than the Florida State League. But we try to tell. I told Daz, you don't change your approach. I mean, is he going to be a home run hitter on the road? Maybe he is, but at this stage, I think he's a gap-to-gap guy. We just want consistent quality at bats out of him, and that's what he's done since he's come up here. He's being very selective at the plate. Obviously, we all know he's 21 years of age. Which is, we're moving him quickly, and he's handling it. The best thing I see out of Daz is that in tight situations in the games, when pitchers are pitching him tightly, he's taking good pitches. I mean, he's not swinging at balls in the dirt. He's spitting on borderline pitches, which a lot of kids his age who just came up to AA would be chasing. So he's got great poise. He's got a good eye at the plate, and he's dangerous right now. Every time he's in the box, he's a threat that we're going to get a base hit single, or he could leave the ballpark. I mean, he hit a home run the other day, Oppo grand slam. I thought there was no chance that the ball was getting out, and it just kept going. Yes, there was a little bit of wind, and we were in Erie, but it was still a ball that got out in a hurry. So defensively, he's good out there. We've got our outfield is pretty solid. We've got 3 guys out there who can chase down anything and above average defenders. But Daz's bat plays very nicely, and he's also got some plus speed, and I think he's going to steal quite a lot of bases.
Andy Graham, the manager of the AA Erie Seawolves, and as you may have been able to tell, Andy, an Australian native, a Sydney product, and a guy who spent some time playing in the Australian League. He's played for the Australian national team, but he's also been a professional manager since he was 29 years old with the Class A Connecticut Tigers in short season ball in the New York Penn League. And Andy, when you look back on, I mean, the fact that you're 36 and you're 8 years into your managerial career is pretty amazing. And to look back on what it was like when you got started as a manager, your first season, 29 years old, your team goes 39 and 35, you get your feet wet, you're back in Connecticut for a couple of seasons, then you're in West Michigan. If you could go back and talk to your first year of managing, that version of yourself, what do you think you've learned over the last 8 years? What's the knowledge that you would impart to yourself?
I mean, obviously, with anything in this game, we're learning something new and every day. And if you think you know everything in this game, then it's time to get out of it, because you don't. There's something different you can learn every day. But I look back at my first year managing, and I look back and say, and I probably think, I knew nothing. I really didn't. If you look back at what I know now compared to what I knew then. Obviously, I've always been a players manager, a younger guy, so I could relate to the players and create a nice, relaxed working environment for the guys. I think that works best, especially for the new college guys coming out of the draft. You don't want to be yelling at them. Most of them are pretty nervous playing professional baseball for the first time in front of all these scouts. And, when the coordinators come in town, they get a little bit stressed out and a little tighter. But if I went back now, I just, the stuff that I've learned, especially how to handle a bullpen, that's one thing you learn as you go, every level. Obviously here in AA, it's even different than it is in high A. You're doing a lot more matchups. You have the personnel to do matchups and stuff like that. But if you go back in time and think about it, it's just like, I used to stress the little things back then. You can't do that. I mean, I'm 36. I already got grey hairs at places from managing. So you can't stress the little things. This game's stressful enough. You got to enjoy the game, and you can't control everything. And that's one thing I would have told myself. Guys are going to make mistakes. But one thing I make sure I do is I don't forget how hard it is to play the game. I still remember, I'm young enough to remember how hard the game was to play. Kids are going to fail. They're going to try, if they fail to get a bunt down, they're not trying to foul the bunt down. Obviously, they've got to get it down, but they're trying. So you can't just get all over them. You got to understand that this game is a tough game, and as long as they're trying hard, you got to keep developing them.
The fact that you are still so close to your playing career, drafted in 2003 by the Tigers, you made it to AAA Toledo by 2007. Being 36 years old, being somebody who is still, around players' ages in some cases, especially guys who are still in the organization who are up at Toledo. How much does that help you relate? And what do you think players are dealing with most now that you didn't have to deal with in your career? I mean, there's so much, like you talked about with Jake Rogers, being the fact that you like watching catchers because you were a catcher. Well, there are so many different video tools now and analytical tools available now that maybe weren't necessarily available when you were playing. What do you think the biggest difference is, and what are you still able to relate to most with players today?
I mean, relating-wise, I can, as you said, there's a lot of coaches out there. I can still remember playing in Toledo. I can still remember, and not only my last year professionally playing was 2007. Obviously, I had Tommy John surgery. I've had a foot surgery. I need to get another knee surgery. I'm just a banged-up body right now for the age of 36. But playing in the national levels at the WBCs, playing in two of them, coaching in one of them, and playing in all those World Cups, that helped me play at a higher level too. Because even though these games aren't major league, the WBC and stuff was still high intensity, and you're playing to win for your country. So I've learned a lot of things along the way, traveling the world, different cultures of how to play. And one thing I tell the guys is, you got to love the game. I mean, a lot of these guys now are putting so much stress on themselves because of all these new analytics, all these new things that there's video for everything, and that's great. The video I love. These guys love it. They can check out what they're doing wrong. We can show them video to see what we see with our eyes, so we can show them, and they can believe what we're saying. Back in the day, a hitting coach would tell you, hey, you're loading too much, and you just have to believe him because there's no video to go along with it. But with all these analytical numbers and stuff, I do enjoy the analytical side. I don't get too involved in it, but when I'm trying to talk to our players and tell them how they can improve, it's good to have the analytical numbers to back you up. They're facts that back it up, so these players actually really buy into what you're saying and believe in it. And then if you have to, you can go to the video. But sometimes these kids worry too much about it. They're like, oh, my exit velocity's gone down. What am I doing wrong? When back in the day, you just say, hey, let's just concentrate on solid contact, and you can't control what happens after that. But it's good that the analytical side is great. It has its pros and cons, but you got to be careful with the whole launch angle thing, because all these kids think now that they've got to try to hit home runs, and all they're doing is creating more of an uppercut, which we've been saying uppercut for the last 100 years. So it's an interesting thing. But I enjoy the side, maybe because I'm younger, and I enjoy the whole numbers guide. I'm trying to get the best out of everything, so I can help these players as best as possible.
Here's the last thing for you. Being a guy who is an Australian product, a guy who played in the Australian Baseball League, and one of the young risers in that Tiger system, you are familiar with what it's like to be a young coach, not just from yourself, but from a lot of people around you throughout your life in baseball and even your life in Australian baseball. Michael Collins, who is now a member of the Houston Astros organization as a bullpen catcher. A few years ago, you guys met as the first Australian managers to meet in minor league baseball, I think in 15 years, back in 2014 when he was in Fort Wayne. You were in West Michigan. Jason Pospisil was a coach on the Sydney Blue Sox staff when you were a first-year player in the inaugural season of the ABL. Back in the day, he took over as manager of that team, I think at 29. Matt Kennelly over in Perth was a player-manager for a while. What does it mean to you to see that, other guys of your generation have taken on and succeeded in this coaching and managing mantle? And for other Australian players or young international players, that's a viable option. I mean, it's not just that you're going to come over, maybe get a small signing bonus, play a few years, and then you're back home trying to figure out something to do. There are other pathways forward, and you guys have been able to craft that. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it's an honor. I mean, I remember when the Tigers, obviously, they sat me in the office and they told me they're going to give you your unconditional release, and obviously you're disappointed. And then they told me that they're going to offer me a full-time coaching job, and they've never done this before, just turn a player straight into a coach. They haven't done it, they're doing it a lot more now because they get fourth coaches at the Detroit Tigers levels in the minor leagues. But it was a good honor. It just showed me that, obviously I didn't have what it takes to make the big leagues, but they saw something in my character, my work ethic, and the way I went about my business that they trusted me with, one, being a coach to start off with, and then the next year going straight into managing, especially at the age of, as you said, 28, 29. So it meant a lot to me. It means that they saw responsibility and motivation and dedication to the game. Obviously, I love the game of baseball. I traveled all the way at 18 years old from Sydney, left my whole family and friends to come to America to go to college, to get signed professionally, and reach that goal. And haven't gone back since. I'm married. I live in Tampa. I go back to Australia every off season for a month to catch up with friends and family, and that's when I sometimes go out to the ball field and catch up with the guys you said, Jason Pospisil, Matt Kennelly, and these are all guys that I played with on the Australian teams or my state teams back home. And it's just a good group of guys back there. There's a lot of young talent over there who play professionally. Their career ended early, and now they're getting back into the coaching. So it's good for the baseball generation in Australia, and I think we're going to move in the right direction over there. We've got a lot of young kids who are getting involved, ex-professional players, and guys who have a lot of knowledge to pass on to the future generations.
And a country that has reached its highest ever ranking on the WBSC International Rankings table, which as of the most recent one, I think Australia climbed in the top 8, which is pretty cool stuff. And the manager of the AA Erie Seawolves in the Detroit Tigers organization is Andy Graham, and a guy who has gotten to handle a really, really fun and really talented roster, and hopefully a lot more fun to come tonight in Reading and on throughout the rest of the season. Andy, thanks, man. It's been so great catching up, and keep it rolling in Erie. Best of luck. Thanks for coming on with us.
I appreciate all the time, guys. Good luck with everything, and might talk to you down the road.
Well, in recent weeks, we've discussed upcoming movie promotions for baseball movies that people are very aware of. The Sandlot, 25 years, 30 years since Bull Durham came out. The Fresno Grizzlies took a different tact in honoring a movie, and we welcome in Benjamin Hill to discuss that. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Tyler, and hello, Sam Dykstra, sitting to my right.
Hello, Ben.
Right this week.
Nice to be back in the same room with you this time.
Oh,
It is. I was really lonely last week when you guys went off and did your thing together, and I was left alone. And now I know how Tyler feels all the time.
Week.
Yeah, I know, right?
Every week, I'm off on my own. But I have the official dog of the Show Before the Show podcast laying behind me, so she's my moral support while I have to endure An indefinite term of recording alone yet again. This week, though, Ben, the 30th anniversary celebration of Coming to America, the Eddie Murphy movie from 1988. The Fresno Grizzlies suited up as the Zamunda Lions, and they went all out for this. They had one of their concession stands was converted to a McDowell's, which was the restaurant that was getting sued by McDonald's in Coming to America. This is kind of cool because it's a movie that people of a certain age are in love with, but a lot of young Fresno Grizzlies fans have probably never even heard of Coming to America, but this is kind of cool. They went sort of off the normal track of honoring movies to go after one like this.
Yeah, I got back from my last road trip a week ago, and was able to pivot to this because I still like to write some decent promo stories during the years during the season whenever I can. And so this took place last Thursday in Fresno, Coming to America, Coming to Fresno night. And I talked to Sam Hansen, the team's director of marketing, the guy who's behind a lot of the Fresno Grizzlies stuff that they do that gets a lot of attention, whether it's taco related or a lot of the theme jerseys they've had. But they have made a habit, not that Coming to America is an obscure movie, but it's not the sort of movie that other teams are celebrating at the ballpark. And the Grizzlies have made sort of a habit of doing this, going a little off the beaten path. In 2016, they did tributes to the Three Amigos and to Good Burger. And when they did the Good Burger promo, they set up a concession stand called Grizz Burger, that was based on the movie Good Burger, and they had a lot of fun with that. So in talking to the team, that's really what sparked this Coming to America promotion, was the idea that, hey, we just rebranded this concession stand for one night as Grizz Burger. Why don't we do that for Coming to America and sell McDowell's, which is features prominently in the movie, where it's not McDonald's, it's McDowell's, and they sell Big Mix. So the Grizzlies, that's really what kicked off this whole promotion, is thinking, hey, we did this for Good Burger, why don't we do this for Coming for America and sell McDowell's at the ballpark? And then from there, they decided to be the Zamunda Lions and went all in with that. And the Grizzlies do everything in-house, so all their design elements are really detailed, and they do it all in-house. They had lapel pins, for like diplomats that said Zamunda on them that they were selling at the team store. All the McDowell's packaging was done in-house that looks like it's from the movie. The movie had a product called Soul Glow, which was, for your Jerry curl. And the team, because not too many people are wearing Jerry curl anymore, the team sold Soul Glow but made it Soul, S-O-L-E Glow, as a sneaker cleaner. So they were literally selling a sneaker cleaner at the ballpark called Soul Glow, which is a reference to a Jerry curl product from the movie of 30 years ago. This is sort of how deep they go. They sold Sexual Chocolate, which is a band in the movie. Chocolate! Yeah, fronted by Randy Watson. It was an adult slushie called Sexual Chocolate that they made in the margarita machines. And
by adult, you mean like had liquor in it?
Yes, okay. Yes. It had Hennessy. It was Hennessy, Kahlua, and chocolate milk, I believe. Ooh. So that was Sexual Chocolate. And they sold that at a different concession stand from McDowell's. One, so the line at McDowell's didn't get too large, and two, so they could isolate the Sexual Chocolate somewhat, because, by minor league baseball standards, that's fairly racy.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And they actually had a local cover band rename themselves for the night as Sexual Chocolate. So Sexual Chocolate played throughout the evening. Props to the Grizzlies. They keep doing these things and kind of setting the templates for teams going all out, and they aren't afraid to take a risk on something that in the world of minor league baseball is kind of obscure.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they do this all in-house, which I was interested in because I was going to ask about these uniforms. These uniforms are really unique too. We've been to the winter meetings, and they have the trade shows, and they show like these are our templates for jerseys. I can't imagine there are that many templates for Zamunda if there were any whatsoever.
I highly doubt.
So when they do it in-house, is that just to, hold or take hold of the creative process entirely, or is there like a financial incentive there as well?
I think it's both. You have to hire someone who is skilled enough to do this sort of work. I think in the Grizzlies case, it is Sam Hansen, not totally by himself, but the director of marketing. He has that kind of design background, so he can sort of lead the charge with that. It saves money to do it in-house if you have people on your staff skilled enough to do it, and you can just explore things in ways you wouldn't be able to if you had to go through a third party. So I think both elements, for creative control and to save money. But again, some of this work is highly skilled in minor league baseball. People love to work in minor league baseball, but often a very highly skilled graphic designer is not going to last on a minor league baseball front office roster for too long, just because you can probably make money elsewhere, even if you might not have the creative freedom that minor league baseball gives you.
It is pretty amazing, and all of the stuff, which is kind of inspired, as Ben goes into in his story. A couple of years ago, the Grizzlies honored the Three Amigos and Good Burger back during the 2016 season. So it's not like they're taking, Oscar winners in Fresno and honoring them, but I think it's really cool that they've decided to go for some things that are not quite the low-hanging fruit of the movies that teams have honored.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just funner for us to talk about and for people who pay attention to this world to see something that not other teams are doing. It gives us something unique to talk about.
Yeah, and do you feel like teams could do this more often in terms of, just aiming for other movies? I mean, there's always Star Wars nights, there's always whatever, but yet it's Fresno doing Coming to America that's getting, caught our eye, is getting publication like this. Do you feel like teams should do that more often and just find a very unique movie, a very unique holiday, whatever, and go that route? Or do you feel like playing it safe is still going to be the name of the game going forward?
Well, I think with 70 home games on the schedule, there's room to do both. You don't want to reject things just because they might be a little boring, like Star Wars Night or this year The Sandlot, because at the end of the day, what it's really about first and foremost is your local market. So it's not really about what people on the internet say is boring or what we discuss is boring. If it works in the local market, you should keep doing it. And it comes down to that. But that said, again, you have 70 games on the schedule. Why not try to find one that can engage with the local market, but can also draw attention from outside of that can have an interesting merch tie-in that can drive revenue on that front, and also just allow teams to kind of give themselves more of a reputation for creativity on taking risks like that sort of thing. I think it's very good for morale when a front office can say, we were the team that did this first. And I do think that's actually very important. So I think the answer is do both. Do the old traditional standbys, but also be willing to take a risk once in a while.
The Big Mick, by the way, looks like a very good burger in that picture. And I would try it, Fresno. Just saying, if you keep it on the menu and I ever end up there, I'll probably order a Big Mick. Their buns have sesame seeds. Our buns have no seeds. Ben, let's move along. The Potomac Nationals, it feels like this is a topic that we cover on almost a yearly basis. But apparently there's more ballpark news coming out of Potomac. G. Richard Fitzner Stadium is one of the more outdated ballparks in the Carolina League. For a long time, the Peanuts have produced various ballpark plans that have not come to fruition. There is now a future development perhaps in the pipeline. What's the latest on Potomac?
Yeah, this is probably the most, with all due respect to Richmond, or maybe not, but either Potomac or Richmond are two of the most long-running ballpark sagas in minor league baseball. So you kind of have to take all the news that comes out of Potomac with a grain of salt, just because they've been trying so hard for so long, and until something happens, it's kind of a we'll see. The latest is that the city of Fredericksburg has agreed to join the Potomac Nationals ownership group led by Art Silber in a letter of intent to build a new stadium, hopefully for the 2020 stadium in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The Peanuts currently play in Woodbridge, kind of a greater DC suburban area. I just lost my train of thought because a guy is coming up outside of our office on a he's not a window washer, but it's like a construction scaffold that just is like going
just like outside the building.
He's peering into our office right now.
Yeah, I think he wanted to get a firsthand glimpse of the Show Before the Show podcast, but he's gone now.
He has to wait his turn like everybody else.
He's just a big fan.
Yeah, he's gone now, and he will be downloading the episode tomorrow when it comes out, I'm sure. But anyway, yes, a new ballpark in Potomac. So this is a letter of intent, and there still has to go through a lengthy approval process, and there's a lot to figure out. You can go to the team's website to see the basic parameters of the deal right now. One of the things is at the end of the 2020 season, the professional baseball agreement expires, which is the overriding agreement between minor league baseball and Major League Baseball that, among other things, determines how many PDCs, player development contracts, there are, and that in turn influences how many minor league teams there are. So I think there's a real push right now within minor league baseball to get stadiums that aren't up to facility standards, get them elsewhere and quick. So when they renegotiate with minor league baseball, they can say, we offer this many high quality stadiums that meet your standards. And the Fitz, the Potomac Nationals' current home, does not. They have variances and all sorts of exceptions to the rules, so they do not want to play there anymore. Minor League Baseball doesn't want them to play anymore, and the latest is maybe they can work something out with Fredericksburg.
And kind of end on a little bit of a downer note, Ben. Just kind of share your stories about Charlie Ride, who was the New York Penn League's historian, who I know you got to talk to almost 4 years ago at this point during your visit to Auburn. Passed away this week. Really a staple of the New York Penn League, going back all the way to the 1960s. What kind of memories do you have about Charlie Ride?
Yeah, well, I only met Charlie Ride once. Mr. Auburn Mr. Auburn baseball and Mr. New York Penn League in a lot of ways. So just really sad to see him pass away at the age of 81 earlier this week. If you are involved in the New York Penn League or have been to New York Penn League games, it's a good chance you've crossed paths with Charlie Ride. League historian. Tyler and I through the years would share emails that Charlie Ride sent, about New York Penn League players. I mean, he just, until the end of his life, stayed super passionate about the New York Penn League and the players within it, and what they went on to accomplish in the major leagues. Did a little bit of everything through the decades, and was a real champion of umpires as well. And anyone who follows minor league baseball, you think how hard the path is for the players, but the umpires, are working essentially away games every night. No one's there to see them. If they make a mistake, they hear about it. They don't know when they're getting evaluated. To have guys like Charlie Ride around who will, take them out to dinner, show support in that sort of way, and do that for decades, I think goes a long way. And it's always sad to lose kind of small town figures from minor league baseball who have really supported it through the decades at a time when, baseball and maybe the area in general has declined in population and overall support.
So rest in peace, Charlie Ride, a guy who contributed a lot to the New York Penn League over his time. And Benjamin Hill, you can find on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz. The blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. You can check out the recap of Coming to America night for the Fresno Grizzlies and everything else at MILB.com. And Ben, go see if you can wrestle up a Big Mick for lunch today.
I will do my best. I'm not sure if they're gluten free, so maybe I'll just have to get some fries.
Well, that's the thing, right?
They
McDonald's
don't have seeds. Maybe they
burgers
are
filled with gluten. Yeah.
And
that's Big
true.
Mics are gluten free.
That could be.
All right. Well, I'll go track one down right now, and I will report back to you guys next week with all the details on the Big Mick I found in Chelsea, Manhattan, in June of 2018, which is going to happen right now. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Ben. To finish off this week's episode of the show before the show, we're talking about what we're going to watch this weekend on MILB.TV, to which you can still get your subscription at MILB.com. You can check out a lot of short season teams. We've added some short season teams this year and full season teams across the board, of course, as we get into the start of the second half in full season ball and rolling into the season in short season ball. Sam, what are you watching this weekend?
Yeah, so I'm going to have my eye on a series in Hillsboro in which the Spokane Indians, Class A short season affiliate of the Texas Rangers, are headed to Hillsboro. All of those games will be on MILB TV. The reason I'm paying attention to that series is it will involve number 61 overall prospect Julio Pablo Martinez. Martinez was signed out of Cuba for $2.8 million back in March. Really toolsy outfielder. Has the chance for plus speed, a really good fielder in center field. Some questions about the arm, but overall should be a good hitter. Just made his stateside debut. Of course, he got a couple games in the Dominican Summer League. He's now played 10 games with Spokane. Is starting to get into his own a little bit. Started out slow, but he homered, like we've said, we're recording this on Wednesday. He homered last night, hit his first stateside homer for Spokane. If he can start to get things clicking, he is 22. He is a little more advanced than most players at that level. I think he could really take off once he's kind of gets comfortable with everything that involves, making your minor league debut for the first time in a new country. Not completely new for him. He did get some experience in the Can-Am League before signing with the Rangers. But I think he's right about ready to pop off, and he has all those tools that are especially fun to watch on MILB TV. So you get a chance this weekend when Spokane visits Hillsboro. What about for you, Tyler?
The International League named its All-Stars for the 2018 AAA All-Star Game, which will be July 11th at Columbus's Huntington Park in Ohio. And the AAA Columbus Clippers catcher, Francisco Mejia, is the highest-ranked member of that roster. And Francisco Mejia and his Columbus Clippers will be home coming up this weekend, taking on the Indianapolis Indians, Indy, the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Columbus, the Cleveland AAA affiliate. And Francisco Mejia has really started coming on as of late. We know what he did last year and the last couple of seasons throughout, the way he carried that hitting streak a couple of years ago, and just the consistency in Francisco Mejia's career has been really impressive. He's still just 22 years old, which is kind of crazy because it feels like we've been talking about him for so long, but that's how good he was really from the start of his professional career. But so far this season, there was kind of that adjustment period to get ready at the minor league level at AAA for the first time. In April, he had 187 with a 515 OPS in 21 games. May, 192 with a 592 OPS. June, 20 games, a 420 average and a 1076 OPS. It's already matched his home run total from the first couple of months of the season. So Francisco, and his RBI total, Francisco Mejia has gotten it figured out, and he and the Columbus Clippers will be on this weekend taking on the Indianapolis Indians from Huntington Park, the site of the AAA All-Star Game in 2018. And with that, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Our big thanks to Andy Graham of the Erie Seawolves and to Benjamin Hill as well. And we'll wrap it up. We'll talk to you next week.